Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnard, where this show is all about all Boston sports, the only podcast that talks about all four Boston sports. So we're here presented by the Grid Network. Thank you for tuning in. And I am excited because there has just been a whole heck of a lot going on. You have the Patriots in the middle of their season. You got the Celtics kicking off last night. You got the Bruins 8 games into their season, and the Red Sox, well, the Red Sox are just being the Red Sox. They have a new Netflix documentary. That's about it. So we're going to start off tonight's show talking about the massacre that happened over in London on Sunday, going over the New England Patriots, where they just got dominated, 32-16. It felt like it was going to start off in the right way for the Patriots. Going to start off being like, hey, look, we're going to jump off to a 10-point lead. We score for the first time on an opening drive in 10 games, dating back to last season. I mean, that's wild, right? It's like, okay, great. We're getting off the right direction. Drake May's doing his thing. And then, obviously, the offense and the defense did their thing and got nothing out of it. We got 6 more points after scoring 10 points in our first 2 drives. Meanwhile, the Jaguars rattled off, I think it was 25 unanswered, and then got that late touchdown to seal the deal. I mean, it was a game that this team, the Patriots, couldn't run, couldn't stop the run, and couldn't play special teams. If you're going to talk about a team that can't do any of those 3 things, not only are you going to lose 99.999% of the time, but you're also a team that is quite arguably soft. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But the defense was gashed for 171 yards on 39 rushing attempts, which averaged out to 4.4 yards per carry. The Patriots, meanwhile, their rushing attack on 15 attempts garnered only 38 yards, which equaled out to 2.5 yards per carry. So, obviously, there's a big discrepancy. You can't stop the run. You can't run. 2 very crucial things in being a good football team. But then you have the way the Jaguars ended the game, which I think really solidified just how inept this team is right now. Because near the end of the third quarter, the Jaguars got the ball. Between the end of the third quarter all the way till the middle of the fourth quarter, they ran the ball 17 straight times and got all the way down to the 4-yard line before you somehow stopped them on a 4th and goal. I don't know how, but you got lucky and stopped the Jaguars on a 4th and goal to get the turnover on downs. Then it's 25-10 at this point. 25-10. Drake May marches the offense 96 yards, where that 50-50 ball to Hunter Henry, great job by him. Great job by him to come up with that football. But Drake May led the offense 96 yards all the way for a touchdown to make it a 16-25 game. And that was with about, I think it was 8 minutes remaining in the game. And so what happens? They decide to go for 2 right there. Now, you might be saying to me, well, Tim, here's the thing. They went for 2 because it's better. I would rather know now with 8 minutes to go rather than with 3 minutes to go whether or not I'm going to need that second possession. That's very true. I can see the little bit of logic you have behind that. But here's the other thing. If you kick the field goal with 8 minutes to go, or kick the extra point, excuse me. I know. If you kick the extra point with 8 minutes to go and make it an 8-point game. You're coming off a high. Your defense got a huge stop. You marched all the way down and give or take 3 minutes to score the touchdown to now only be down within 1 score. I don't know about you, but that's kind of a big difference between being down 1 score or being down 1 score where you only need the extra point. And not to mention, if you don't make that 2-point conversion, which there are more cases of that than missed extra points, then you're going to be down 2 scores. So that's kind of the big difference, because you get the extra point, you're down 8, it's still only 1 score technically. Your team's feeling good. Your defense is feeling pumped. Like, all right, look, we got the key stop. Our offense did their job. Now we're going to go on the field, do our job, give the offense 1 more chance. Because technically that's all they need to tie the game up. And yet, nope, this Patriots team not only went for 2, but then designed a play where you had to rely on the guy who has been talking trash like the last couple of weeks, even though he's done absolutely nothing on the field yet. He's a rookie and has the gall to talk all this smack about, oh, I'm the best receiver, or I have the best hands in the NFL. Dude, what have you done? You've dropped the ball more times this season than you have catches. So please, spare me on I have the best hands in the NFL and that I don't have a mental game, because when Gerard Mayo said that you have to get your head on straight, he wasn't taking a dig at you. He was giving you an out. He was giving you the ability to say, yeah, you know what? I just got to clear my head. And, once I do that, I'm good to go. I'll be right back at it. No, you had the gall as a rookie to go against what your head coach is saying, which, again, goes to show how much power I think this head coach has. And we'll talk about that some more as well. But going back to the missed 2-point conversion, that's your plan, to go to this guy. And what does he do? He slips and falls. Doesn't even have an opportunity to attempt that catch. Like, it's so ridiculous. And listen, okay, yes, it's raining, but it doesn't matter. This is what Belichick always prepared for. This is why part of the Super Bowl 53 part of Super Bowl 53, when they were deciding whether or not to close the roof in Atlanta, Belichick went to the refs and said, no, this is how it should have gone, which he changed everything up because of that, because he knows the intricacies. Again, if it's raining out, you're putting different spikes on the cleats to make it stick in the ground harder, so you're not slipping and falling. But I digress. So then what happens? The Jaguars run the ball more. They ended up running the ball 20 out of their final 21 plays. And they lost. The Patriots got the ball back for a split second, did nothing with it. And next thing you know, the Jaguars have the ball, give it to Tank Bigsby, who runs it in to make the game 32-16 rather than 25-16. That's it. That's all that happened on Sunday. And, it just goes to show how unacceptable this is from a top of the organization all the way down. Like, this team is the team that we rode for decades, being like all the garbage teams out there, all the teams that were finishing dead last, playing for the number 1 overall pick. We gave those teams so much crap. And now, I think after Sunday's loss, we are one of those teams. As I said on this show last week, this game against Jacksonville was a do or die. Now, I thought Jacksonville would come out stronger because they've been there for 2 weeks. Their bodies have adjusted to the time frame over there. Meanwhile, the Patriots were flying in there on Thursday or Friday. Their bodies didn't have time to adjust, and so that's kind of what I thought. But actually, it turns out it's a complete opposite. The Patriots started off hot, but then the Jaguars finished strong, which actually, when you think about it, makes sense. But it's totally unacceptable. This team has fallen so far from grace. I can't even begin to describe what's going on with the organization, starting with, as I've talked about on this program several times, Robert Kraft. The man decided, after firing the greatest head coach of all time, which, again, I was in favor of because Belichick ran out his welcome. He couldn't draft. The team was a mess, 4-13 last season. They weren't really competitive in most games. And for a Bill Belichick team to not be competitive in most, if not all, the games, just goes to show that I don't think he was into it. The team was into it. Everybody was not into the team last year. I get that. And I wanted Belichick gone. I will keep saying it every time I bring it up. But 3 days after firing the greatest head coach of all time, he hires Gerard Mayo, who is his buddy. Kraft didn't do his due diligence, though. He had Mike Vrabel out there. There was rumors the Patriots are going after Mike Vrabel. He didn't do that. They then ended up hiring Gerard Mayo, man, Thundercat over here, constantly calling Robert Kraft Thundercat because, they're boys, man. They're so close. They're boys. Like, what are you doing? And Robert Kraft talked about, bringing Gerard Mayo ahead of schedule, basically, as the next head coach of the New England Patriots, and equating it to how he picked his wives or how he picked his girlfriends, like whatever. But it was he basically said, like, what he's done is gone ahead and, done his due diligence like he did with his now new wife, whatever. Like, did you really, when it came to Gerard Mayo, did you really do your due diligence? Because quite honestly, no, he didn't. He didn't. Because after the Germany game, which was widely speculated that Belichick was done. It was over. That they're going to be looking for a new head coach at the end of the season. And what happens? You don't even interview anybody else. You find the loophole in the Rooney Rule, which I have expressed time and time again why the Rooney Rule should be abolished. And I'm not saying that because, it's ridiculous. I'm saying that the Rooney Rule should be abolished because it's worn out its welcome. It's time. I mean, if you're telling me that these owners are still not going to hire black head football coaches, I think that's ridiculous. And listen, prove me wrong, then I'm fine with it. But what you're doing with the Rooney Rule is you're basically saying that you're forced to interview minority candidates in which 90% of the time they're not even going to get the job anyway. So if they're going in for these interviews knowing full well that they're not getting the job, what's the point? That's what I'm saying by abolish the Rooney Rule, especially the whole thing between Bill and Brian Flores and Brian Daboll there. Now Bill texted the wrong Brian, congratulate him on the Giants head job, coaching job. But it's stuff like that I just look at it going, it's not worth it anymore. The Rooney Rule had its place, but now I don't think has its place. I think it should be. I think it's time for that to go. But Kraft doesn't do his due diligence, so he brings in Gerard Mayo. who then they elevate Elliott Wolf to the GM position. And let's see, how did he do? Oh, that's right. You basically re-sign every single guy, for the most part, off a 4-13 team, thinking that, oh, you're going to be better now because we re-signed everybody, which Belichick hasn't done in a very long time, but it still doesn't work because you were 4-13 last season. Why are you thinking that bringing everybody back is going to change everything under a new head coach, right? And not to mention that the drafting by Elliott Wolf has been absolute garbage. And if you want to say to me, Drake May, here's the thing, though. Drake May was a consensus third overall pick. The draft, no matter which team was going to be picking at third, it was going to go Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. No other player was going to be taken third overall. There was speculation. Of course, that's just to make the draft relevant. Speculation. But in all actuality, it was going to be Williams, Daniels, May. So that's easy. That's easy money to do. You know, like that doesn't take a lot of scouting, a lot of hard work to figure it out. So then you fast forward to the second round where you wanted guys like Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy. Leggett. I think it's Xavier Leggett too. But you wanted Worthy and Leggett at receiver, or you could have gone after some of the left tackles that were dropping in the draft. But no, you decide to sit there and not trade up, not use some capital to get Jalen Polk, who, as I mentioned, can't catch a friggin' cold. And then later on, from one of your other trades, you acquired a draft pick. You got Javon Baker, who, oh my God, is this guy just a friggin' mess? He hasn't even seen the field. But the dude, when he gets drafted, there were reports saying that a lot of teams kept him off their draft board because of his personal issues. Then he loves to he made the comment saying, I'm the type of guy that will get people in wheelchairs to stand up. Oh, really? How's that going for you, Javon? Because the last time I remember, you had a beautiful ball thrown to you by Drake May in the preseason that was in your hands, you laid out for, and what happened? You dropped it. And haven't seen the field since, not to mention your little spiff with the Stadies at Logan Airport, because they were telling you to move your ass along instead of sitting there waiting like every single Stady at Logan does. Okay? Like, what makes you so special? Because the Stady's telling you to move? That's what happens at every single airport. Their cops are telling you to move, keep moving, because the lines are so friggin' far back. And you haven't seen the field. So, to Elliott Wolf, tip of the cap to you, my man, because I'm beginning to wonder if the wide receivers that were drafted under Belichick and this regime are one and the same. Meaning that it wasn't necessarily Bill who can't scout wide receiver talent to save his life. It's the entire staff and the personnel staff that can't scout wide receiver talent to save their lives. I, on the other hand, can scout wide receiver talent. And not for nothing, it's not that hard. Like, if you want to talk about their headspace and, all the off the field stuff, fine, we can talk about that. But when you're talking about what's shown on the field, I'm sorry. It doesn't take a friggin' rocket scientist to say, that guy's good, that guy's not, that guy's good, that guy's average, but, he's got some upside. Like, that's what I did. Me and an old friend, we're going through it. in the 2019 draft when we drafted N'Keal Harry. I have the whole scout form. But that's again, it's unbelievable that the personnel staff can't ID a friggin' good receiver to save their lives. So at the end of the day, whose fault is it? Is it Bill's fault that we couldn't draft wide receivers? Or was it the personnel staff that can't scout wide receivers? That doesn't want to stand on the table for guys like A.J. Brown? Stupid. And now, of course, you have Nick Chubb coming out saying he thought he was going to get drafted by the Patriots, who I wanted, by the way. But just our luck, right? It's just our luck. So that's Elliot Wolf, the personnel staff. All right. Then you have Gerard Mayo, who, how many times is this guy gonna shove a foot in his mouth? Honestly, you burn some cash. Look at how much cash we spent in the offseason. 0. Well, again, we spent a little bit, not a lot. Then he talks about he totally screws up the quarterback announcement. And now, on Sunday, in the post-game press conference, what is the one thing that he says? This team is soft. And just for good measure, here's exactly what he said and how he said it.
Whatever time it is. Look, disappointing game. We came out, we started fast. What I would say is, look, we're a soft football team across the board. We talk about what makes a tough football team. That's being able to run the ball, that's being able to stop the run, and that's being able to cover kicks, and we did none of those today. They controlled the ball for most of the day. Their run game averaged over 4.5 yards a carry. Our run game, not sure what the average was, but it wasn't good. Look, back to the drawing board. I mean, we can't sit here and pout. We just got to put the game together.
And again, in the heat of the moment, I don't disagree with him. I do think that this team has some soft elements to them. Now, again, everybody now, including Belichick, wants to say, "Oh, I know these guys, and they're not soft. Like they come out, they play tough." Belichick, for instance, he responded to the soft comments. See for yourself.
Coach, have you ever had a soft team?
Look, I think when you criticize your team publicly like that, it doesn't always go over well. Not every coach has their own style, and maybe sometimes that can be effective and all. But ultimately, I always felt like when the team played bad, that was my responsibility too. I mean, we might have had bad playing, but we had bad coaching that led to bad playing. So I think it's always best to kind of take a look at yourself and do what you can do to help the team, and then. If you have constructive criticism as a coach, that's your job. But I don't know. Last year the Patriots led the league in rushing defense yards per carry, number 1 in the league. This year they're 26th or whatever it is. It's the same players. I don't think that those players on defense are soft, but they haven't stopped the run very well this year.
Yeah, and then Belichick goes on to discuss how I feel for those guys. Like, dude. I understand him saying that, look in the mirror, basically. When we don't play well, it means I didn't coach well. And I get that. And I do. But also, too, two things can be the same. Like you can have a soft football team and call it for what it is. Because the way that Jacksonville played, that they ran the ball for 171 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, and had 20 of their last 21 plays rushing the football. And we hired a defensive head coach. You don't think that kind of irks him a little bit? That this is the type of stuff that we're getting, the type of results we're getting? Now, I understand Barmore's out, Bentley's out, and Peppers is, he has his personal issues. But it's crazy to me because then, of course, the next day, Mayo's like, well, that's not what I meant. Like, I meant it this way, blah, 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 like all this stuff. Like he constantly puts his foot in his mouth. And quite honestly, it's kind of getting annoying because not only is he doing that, but he's allowing the team, their freedom of speech. And again, as I mentioned on the show last week, when you let the guys talk and say whatever the hell they want, you're going to run into a lot of issues. Stemming from what has gone on over in London. Because you have Kendrick Bourne coming out and discussing how some of the guys might have stayed out a little late, weren't necessarily good to go on Sunday because they hadn't adjusted to the time. So when, instead of them, staying in on Saturday night, what do? They enjoy themselves overseas in London. And then you have Kayshon Boutte, who had to go to the coaching staff before his 40-yard catch to say, give me the football. And then to top it off, actually not to top it off just yet, but Jalen Polk posting on his Instagram story a black screen that just had the peace sign or ... peace sign out there, which everybody can interpret however they want. But when you see this, that means peace, I'm out. And there's a black screen. So what are you out of? Are you just saying peace out, London? It's been real. Are you saying to the team basically, peace out? I'm sick of us being 1-6, losing to the Jaguars. Like, we shouldn't lose them. So peace, I'm out. I'm checked out. I'm going to coast the rest of the season. What are you piecing out of? All right. Now to top it off, KJ Osborne, this guy, he was our big free agent wide receiver acquisition, which I couldn't understand because I wasn't even a KJ Osborne fan to begin with. But then we sign him because he was really the only receiver left on the free agent market, maybe even worth a damn. He decided after the game to post a text exchange as to why maybe, I don't know, whether he didn't play up to par, whether he, post, like, it was all about him basically. It was a text exchange between him and his agent where he says, proud of you is an understatement. From being told, and this is KJ saying this. Oh, no, this is the agent saying this, excuse me. Being proud of you is an understatement. From being told you would be inactive Wednesday and only taking 3 reps all week in practice to being told you're activated at 11 p.m. on Saturday night and going in the game at another position across the world in London, you held your composure and did what pros do. You're a true pro, Kay. I love you with my all. Kay, never change. You are who you are. And then goes on, and then it goes on to say, when God is with you, nothing can stop you. KJ Osborne, keep playing your game. God got us. KJ Osborne reposts that. What are we doing? And then, like, it came out just earlier today. I was ready to go in with just this piece of ammunition to show how much this team is an absolute joke, right? They are just an absolute joke. I was ready to walk in with just that piece of information, only to get KJ Osborne. Excuse me. I'm trying to. No, sorry. Only to get. It wasn't video. I thought I had a video of it. It wasn't on video. I got it right here. When asked by reporters today, a few hours ago, 7:30, a few hours ago, whether or not he wanted a trade, he said, quote, "It's like an alley-oop." Osborne laughed. Quote, "This is where I am. This is the place I signed to be. A lot of things are out of my control, but I would like to be where my feet are. So today, I'm here. So now I'll rock with it as it goes." End quote. You know what, KJ? Get the hell out. I'm done. I will trade you for a bag of footballs and get absolutely no value in return to get your ass off my team. That is absolutely laughable. To have a player who is talking like this, and he is our big-time free agent wide receiver acquisition, like, oh my God. KJ Osborne, at best, is the third receiver on any other team in this league. At best. Osborne is not good, okay? He is not a number one, and he sure as hell ain't a number two. All right? And like I said, Gerard Mayo's going out, giving these guys free reign, basically, to say whatever they want. And it's only fitting because just 2 weeks ago, on the Patriots podcast, the All 22, or Catch 22, excuse me, with Evan Lazar and I apologize for getting your name, but Evan Lazar goes on to discuss that there's a potential mutiny. Here it is.
How they're teetering on mutiny in that locker room. And I don't want to be alarmist or like hyper what's the word? I don't want to
hyperbolic.
speak. Yeah, hyperbolic. Thank you. I don't. But I was in that locker room after the game on Sunday. The defense is mad at the defense. The offense is mad at the offense. You have young receivers who are literally throwing tantrums on film, and Pop Douglas and Jalen Polk, and good on Pop Douglas for owning that this week and walking, kind of saying that he's got to be better and all that kind of stuff. But I said this before and I'll say it again. You're at the point now with 52 other guys in that locker room that all watch these two quarterbacks practice every single day, that all know that they drafted Drake May 3rd overall. And at what point in time does some of these guys say to themselves, why am I going out there and getting my butt kicked every single Sunday and Drake can't? Like, why?
I mean, and the funny thing is, it's a potential mutiny because Drake May wasn't starting after Jacoby Brissett is sucked. Now you have a potential mutiny because the team just sucks. The team sucks. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. And it's kind of sad, because I remember there were plenty of, Patriot homers, Patriot fans on Twitter who were just like, we're not tanking again. We're going to, compete our asses off. We're playing for a playoff position. And not for nothing. I'm kind of sitting there looking at it going, guys, we're not good, right? And sometimes it's like it didn't even matter. But I'm looking at it going, like, I hate that I'm validated by this, but I feel like I kind of am. Because you cannot, and I mean you cannot, have a team this bad. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this is wildly unacceptable. And I swear to God, I feel like Robert Kraft, and again, I'm talking top down, and I feel like Robert Kraft is more focused on his Hall of Fame candidacy, more focused on going out and talking to all different kinds of media just to save face, just to be like, I'm this frail old man. I did nothing wrong. It was all bad Bill Belichick's fault. Right? That's what Robert Kraft sounds like to me. When he's going on all these press tours talking this nonsense, right? On how Kraft had no involvement. Kraft easily could have stood up the bill and said, no, we're not getting rid of Brady. But he didn't. He trusted Bill, and look at how that paid off. And then he got rid of Bill and blamed every single incident on Bill Belichick. Blamed everything on Bill, as seen by the Apple documentary. So the interesting thing is, too, the last thing I'm going to say about this, Greg Bedard is on Felger and Maz show on 98.5 The Sports Hub every Tuesday. And he threw out a tidbit that I don't see happening. I find it interesting that he threw it out there because he's inside. He's got a good relationship with the team. He's got some inside sources there. But he went on to say that if things spiral, out of control like this, that don't be surprised if Mayo gets fired. And to that, I respect the hell out of Greg. I do. I think he's a great, columnist. I think he asks tough questions. I think he asks good questions. But I do not see the Patriots firing Gerard Mayo after one season with this bad of a roster. I don't. Would I expect him to be fired? If he were, a guy who's been around the block, he's done all these things in the league, maybe. Because it's not only what's going on the field that's an issue. Now it's everything off the field. And I find it ridiculous. I do. Don't get me wrong. A part of me would be a little bit relieved if he does get fired because again, everything that's going on with this whole, with this mutiny, with this, team getting called soft, Gerard Mayo saying all the worst things he possibly can, and then having to retract it back. It's kind of like, dude, like, you're the head coach. You need to know what to say, when to say it. And again, with the soft comment, he might have done the right thing. But then to retract it basically the next day, that's not doing the right thing. If you're going to say stuff like this, you got to stick to your guns, man. You got to ride or die. You're going to burn some cash. You're going to burn some cash, right? So I just kind of look at it going, I don't know what's going on with this team. We have literally become the Cincinnati Bengals, the Arizona Cardinals. We have become the Houston Texans back, when they first started. We've just become a laughingstock of the NFL right now. And tell me I'm wrong, because I don't think you can. With a straight face, deep down in your subconscious, I think I'm right. So now we're going to move on to a good, fun part of the show, because the Boston Celtics are coming off banner night, ring night, banner number 18. And boy, was it a night, baby. Was it a night to have arguably the greatest shooting performance from behind the arc that I think any of us have ever seen, to make 29 three-point attempts, to absolutely dominate the New York Knicks, who, after the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, everybody's like, oh my God, the Knicks are contenders. They were contenders before, but now they're really contenders. Oh my God, it's done. Like, the Celtics, they got a lot of pressure on the East. Bitch, please. There's no way. No way. The Celtics last night had to be one of the most focused teams I have ever seen play on a banner night. Banner nights are usually a really emotional night. You get the rings, you're hyped up, you're reflecting on what you did last season, and then you start the game off and you're kind of like, oh wait, we actually have a real game to play right now. That did not look like a team that was unprepared. They were not hung up on the emotion. Jason Tatum was a little bit hung up on the emotion when he was making his speech, which totally fine with. I'm glad he felt emotional. I'm glad he, was like, let's run it back, baby. And speaking of that emotion,
this is special. Honestly, man, on behalf of me, my teammates, the organization, we couldn't have did it without you last year. So let's enjoy this moment together. I can honestly say, to the best fans in the world, let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Right here. Looking for that repeat, baby. As you saw all over my social media, I had the Celtics repeating, this time against the Thunder. All right. But so overall, phenomenal game. And like I talked about the emotion, Jason Tatum, he got a little emotional at that moment because he went on in his postgame to say, hey, I wasn't planning on saying that. It just kind of, I was pumped. I was heated. Like, let's go. Let's do it again. Feeding off the crowd. But also, too, like, I'm glad because we all know that he worked on his shot during the offseason, and it paid off. Going 37 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds, 8 of 11 from 3. You know, in the first quarter, he had 15 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, shooting 5 of 7. He hit 4 threes in the first quarter. And you want to know how bad he was during the playoffs? The whole playoffs, all 4 rounds, Tatum only hit 4 or more three-pointers twice. Twice. They played, what was it? 5, 10, 15, 19 games. 19 games. In 2 of those 19, Jason Tatum hit 4 or more threes. Crazy. That's crazy to me. So I was pumped to see it. He was just on fire. The whole team, like I said, just laser focused. They were on a mission last night. Oh, you Knicks traded away Dante DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns and, you know, whatever. All right, cool. Great. Guess how that's going to play out? The same way it did last year, baby. You're going to get your ass handed to you. And I loved it. Loved it, baby. Like, let's go. Like, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see, you know, how the Celtics will do this season. And if they can play like this, which, again, we all know they're probably not, but there are going to be some games. There are going to be some mishaps. Totally cool. But if they can play like this or play relatively close to this, there is no question that they're going to win every single game that they play like this. No question. That was a dominant performance. And they had 95 shot attempts, which, okay, that's fine, but 61 of those were from 3. Now, here's the thing. If I'm looking at that number just straight up, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? Like 61 threes, you already led the NBA by a wide margin in 3-point attempts last season. Now you want to like double that? You want to keep adding on more and more threes per game? That is absurd because eventually you're going to come to those games where you make 5 of those threes. You know, 5 of 63s. You know what I mean? And so that right there screams to me like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But also when you look at it too, I want to take out those final 13 threes. Why? Because I feel like those final 13, they were just shooting to break the record. And, of course, they had their backups in, their bench guys in. So if you do that, right, you take all that into consideration. So let's say after they made their 29-3, they shot all 2-pointers from there on out. They drove to the bucket. They tried to get the easy, points, all of that, right? Not only would our, score might have been higher, but we would have ended the night 29 of 48. And we already shot 47.5% from 3 with the 61 3-point attempts. Had we eliminated the 13 threes and gone 29 of 48, we would have shot 60.4%. I'm sorry. You're not beating anybody if they're going to shoot 60% from 3 and also putting up over 33-point attempts. You put more than 33s and shoot 60+%, you're not beating that team. I don't care how good you are. You're not. And so that to me was just unbelievable. Like, I am pumped that we have at least one good team in Boston. And again, you want to talk about the threes. I would say too, so here's the thing. Number one, I don't want them to play like that. I want them to play what the defense gives them. Just that classic, take advantage of what the defense gives you. And last night, the defense just collapsed, leaving all those guys wide open. In which case, if that's the case, go for it. Chalk them up, man. Why bother trying to force something down the paint when you're not getting guarded on the outside? You drive to the hole, they collapse, you dish it out, bam, wide open, buckets, right? So that is truly what I want of this team. I don't want them to average 63-point attempts a game, 63-point attempts a game. I want them to average right around that 30 to 45 mark and make them count. Make it worth your while, right? If the defense is giving you the lane, take the lane. If they're giving you the threes, take the threes. If they're giving you the mid-range, take the mid-range. You know what I'm saying? So the only good team in Boston won last night. And by only good team, we got the other team at the TD Garden who just can't seem to get their head on straight. And I know I talked last week about the Bruins and how we're 5 games in. It's not time to panic. And I still believe it's not time to panic. But I'm trying to debate, whether or not is it time to talk about firing Jim Montgomery yet? Because when you look at it, Jim Montgomery in his first season had the greatest single season of any NHL team. Most wins, most points. Gets the President's Trophy, and what happens? We lose in the first round of the Panthers, who just out-physicaled us. Then we almost became in the second season, we almost became the first team in North American sports that has a 7-game series to lose back-to-back 3-1 series leads. We were that close to doing that. We had a 3-1 series lead over the Panthers in year 1. We had a 3-1 series lead over the Maple Leafs in year 2. Both teams forced a 7-game. We lost to Florida, but we snuck away with the victory over the Maple Leafs. And then what happens? We play Florida again, and we get the same result as we did last year, except they did it 1 game faster. They beat us in 6. And they went on to win the Stanley Cup. And I'll tell you this, I don't care if they won the Cup. I was rooting against them every single step of the way. I don't root for the team that beats me. If you do, that's loser mentality. But now we have new players. We are off to arguably one of the worst starts in recent Bruins memory. And again, I'm not expecting us to win every game. But what do I mean by that? Simple. Of our wins, we're not scoring a lot of goals. We're averaging 3 goals a game. We are 19th of 32 teams in terms of goals per game. When you look at the points by line, so when you go on to dailyfaceoff.com and you see the goals, the assists, the points, and you look at the Bruins by line, the first line of Marchand, Lindholm, and Pasternak has amassed 14 points. Second line of Max Jones, Charlie Coyle, Trent Frederick, 2 points through 8 games. Third line of Zaka, Poitras, and Geeky, 3 points in 8 games. And then our fourth line of Johnny Beecher, Mark Kastelik, and Kepke have the most points on the team, which is 16. It's great that our fourth line is carrying us, amassing 16 points. I love that. But the fourth line should only be this good when the rest of the team is playing well too. Like, are you serious? We have 5 points in 8 games between our second and third lines combined. 5 points. That's insanity. The fact that we're not going off and trying to amass all this talent is baffling to me. Like, offensive talent is baffling to me. Yes, we got Elias Lindholm. Very excited to have him on the team. We got Nikita Zadorov. Great. Big body. Seems to be taking a lot of unnecessary penalties right now, but he's a big body. Hopefully he can play like a big body and skate, around, not just stand there like Zdeno Chara did in the 2019 Stanley Cup final, where he was, love Chara, love, the 2019. He took the puck to the jaw. I get it. Like, I'm not trying to bash Chara, but the latter years, okay, maybe the 19 foul wasn't right, but the latter years of Chara, he was a traffic cone. Like, I'm sorry. Guys were skating right around him. He wasn't using his angles well. Okay? Nice to be a big body, but you also have to skate as well. But we have nothing. And again, as you know, I wanted DeBrusk gone, and I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad he's not with the team anymore. He didn't need to be with us anymore. But we need to find that offensive talent. Or we just don't have it. We just don't have it. And it's crazy to me. It's crazy that we are putting ourselves in this situation. We're signing all these guys. Great. Good guys. But then we sign guys like I've bitched about before. Swayman. I'm sorry. Swayman does not deserve an $8 million per year contract. He doesn't. I don't know what the issue was, and it's not like I can sit here and know exactly what went on in the walls of the TD Garden to figure out how they were doing their negotiations. I don't know. I don't know what went on. But if Swayman's coming to me saying that I deserve anywhere between 8 and 10 million, hell, anywhere between 7 and 10 million, I'm going to look at him and laugh in his face. Because he doesn't have the history of being the number one guy, playing 55-plus games in the regular season, then leading the team deep into the postseason. Doesn't have that history. And I don't care that we had a second goalie for that. That's not on him. It's not like he played well enough to beat out Linus Ullmark to get the majority of the time. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy to me. And then going back to firing Montgomery, or can we at least discuss the situation? Against Utah, he did something that I think not many people picked up on initially. Can you see what it is?
Yamamoto's right there. Play looked a little funny coming across the blue line. See if the Bruins took a look at it.
Yeah. He shoved Brad Marchand on the bench, scolded him in front of the team. And lest I forget, Brad Marchand has the C on his patch, right? So if he's got the C, isn't that the last guy you're going to scream at? Isn't he the last guy you're going to berate in front of everybody 18,000 in attendance on top of the guys on your bench? What isn't that the thought process going on? Well, in the heat of the moment, I guess not. Now, what Brad said to initiate that, I don't know. But again, that stems to a bigger issue, because the few questions that I have off of that are, what is going on behind the scenes? You know, not just between Brad and Jim, but with Jim and the team. You know, are things falling apart? Has this team checked out? Have they looked at Jim Montgomery and like, dude, we're sick of your crap, man. We're done. You know, because again, Jim Montgomery, lest we forget, was a player's coach. Bruce Cassidy was not a player's coach. He was a hard ass. And what happened? We sided with the players to get the guy that's going to coddle them, that's going to be nice to them, that's not going to give them the tough practices that not for nothing they kind of need, because they're all mental midgets when it came to playing for Bruce Cassidy. So, are things falling apart? Has the team tuned him out? And if that happens 8 games into the season, then I'm sorry. Montgomery's got to go. There's no way we're going to get this team back if Montgomery has already been tuned out this early into the season. It's just not going to happen. And then the funny part is, no one's asking him. No one asked Jim Montgomery about that incident, which is crazy to me. Because they showed it on Nesson, but then never went back to it. Like, isn't that something that, I don't know, kind of raises an eyebrow or two? Like, seriously? It's kind of a big deal. I don't care if it's this little shove or not. Hell, he could have done what Jim McElwain did to one of the guys at Florida, just grabbed him by the face mask and reamed him out. That blew up on national news. But, I mean, football coaches used to do that all the time. And now with this, I mean, yeah, there's a little push. But, again, why did Brad feel the need to clap back or say something? You know? Did Brad even look in Montgomery's direction to say something, then turned around and stood there stone-faced? I don't know. But with what's going on with that team right now, I mean, we have a good enough roster to be playoff contenders. We do. But, and again, I know it's 8 games into the season. I'm not, like I said, I'm not blowing the panic. I'm not pushing the panic button. I'm not. But I'm asking, is it time to discuss the possibility of letting Jim Montgomery go? Because I feel like we're kind of starting to get to that time. I feel like we are. But we'll find out shortly, I guess. And so the last thing I want to talk about is a little bit of Red Sox and a little bit of my thoughts. Because the Red Sox, first starting with them, they went off and hired the Rays director of predictive marketing. Now, I'm no English major, but when I hear predictive modeling, did I say marketing? I'm sorry, I meant modeling. Predictive modeling. They hired the Rays director of predictive modeling. That is a guy who makes models, looks into the future, and predicts what is going to happen. Into that, I just kind of want to kick back and just, shake my head, because the Red Sox are dying to become the Tampa Bay Rays. They want to be them so badly that they have changed a generation of minds. All the nerds today who are in their, late teens, early 20s, hell, maybe even some of the mid to late 20s, are sitting there agreeing with everything that's going on, saying that, oh no, the Red Sox, they can't spend that money. They can't go out and sign guys like Mookie Betts because he's got bad this, bad that. They shouldn't have signed Mookie Betts when they did. No, they made the right move. And yeah, you could sit there saying 2020 hind vision, but no, they did the right thing getting Jeter Downs and Alex Verdugo. And to all those all those Generation Z guys who, look at the Red Sox like that, stop watching sports. Just stop. It's not worth your time. Go back, go do your thing, start reading your books, start studying your books again, because watching the Red Sox aren't for you. Watching sports aren't for you. Because this predictive modeling nonsense is exactly what I just said it is. Nonsense. You're not going to know how things are going to go. And with this guy, all he's going to do is look into the future, which is what the Red Sox have been preaching to us for 4 effing years, which is we got guys in our farm system. We got guys on our farm. We got guys. It's not worth it. Here's an idea. F the farm system altogether. Are we winning on the field in Fenway? If the answer is yes, keep doing that. If the answer is no, I don't know. Convince your owner to throw some effing money at the problem. Because, as we've seen, money solves everything. And why do I say that in baseball? Simple. 3 of the 4 teams in the LCSs, American National League Championship Series, are 1, 2, and 3 on the highest payroll. And now this bleeds over into my thoughts, because Alex Spear put out on the Boston Globe that 3 of the 4 teams in the LCS were at the very top this past season, with the Mets coming in number 1 at $350 million as calculated for luxury tax purposes, and then the 2 teams at 2 and 3, the Dodgers and Yankees, respectively, are now playing against one another in the World Series, spending $340 million and $315 million, respectively. Not to mention, the Dodgers are going to be paying a tax penalty of $89 million, so 340 plus 89, you do the math, and then Yankees 315 plus the tax penalty of $61 million, you do the math. Needless to say, money solves everything. The Dodgers went out and got Shohei Ohtani, Yoshida Yamamoto. They traded for Mookie Betts. They traded for Freddie Freeman. And the Yankees have Aaron Judge. They got Giancarlo Stanton. They traded for Juan Soto this past season. Have Garrett Cole that they've thrown a boatload of money at. And at the end of the day, whoever wins the World Series is going to be the most expensive team in baseball history. And yet, we have an owner that is so focused on numbers, is so focused on analytics, and trying to get the best bang for his buck that he couldn't give a damn about winning. John Henry, I dare you to sit down and have a conversation with me. And don't worry, I'm not going to be screaming at you, but I am going to nitpick everything that you're going to say, because you're wrong. You're wrong. Guys like you should not own a team. Guys like him should not be in sports, period. I'm sorry. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sports are for the jocks, and nerds can play with their numbers over here. It's that simple. Like, it's absurd to me that you have a guy who has spent all this money, gone after all these superstar players in the past to compete with the New York Yankees, all of a sudden did a 180 in 2019 and is like, nah, I'm good. I got my portfolio building, got Liverpool, got the racing, just bought the Penguins, which actually the Penguins are going to be playing the Bruins here at Fenway. Yeah, I'm good. I don't need to do a damn thing. I'll just sign the checks and, just tell all my GMs, yeah, get the best team for as cheap as you possibly can. And if you spend over what I want, then I'm going to fire your ass. That's John Henry. He doesn't care. And as somebody who is a fan, has a competitive streak to him, what are we doing? This isn't going to work. Show me a team that is so focused on analytics that they've gone all the way and won the World Series. Oh, that's right. You can't. Never happened before and never will happen. Best example you've got is the 2002 Oakland Athletics. And the reason why I bring up the Oakland Athletics rather than the 2022 Rays the 2020 Rays or the 2008 Rays, I bring up the 02 A's because that team was loaded at pitching, and even their lineup was pretty damn good with Miguel Tejada, Eric Chavez, having Barry Zito, Mark Mulder. Like, that is a stud lineup that they had for cheap pennies on the dollar. That's the only reason why that team was so damn good. Not because of Billy Beane deciding to go with OBP rather than average, on base percentage rather than average. Just for those who don't know what OBP is. Like, I mean, it's just frustrating. Like, day in and day out, the only news stories that I see coming out of Fenway are more nonsense, analytic-driven BS like this, rather than seeing what I've been watching on the Netflix documentary, The Comeback, describing the 04 baseball team, and going through that history, going back to a time where John Henry would spend all this money on Kyle Crawford, Pablo Sandoval, David Price, John Lackey, just to name a few. Josh Beckett, Mike Lowell. I mean, only to what? Oh, I don't know, win? Make the playoffs and win? Like, I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy kind of what we've become as a city. I swear to God, 20 years of dominance. And now we have two teams that are at the absolute bottom with no signs of improving except for Drake May. And we got a Bruins team that can't seem to get their act together right now at the start of the season. And then the Celtics, they're the only good team. As it stands, we've somehow gone back 60 years into the past where the Celtics were the only good team in the city. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? The competitive edge is gone, with the Red Sox. I would argue the competitive edge is gone with the Patriots as well. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, sticking around, listening to, hey, what's going on with every single Boston sports team, man. That is what this show is all about. The Boston Sports Summit. Hey, I'm your host, Tim Barnard. We're presented by the Grid Network. Check us out every single Wednesday. And we're going to have a little flip in our schedule coming up soon, but I'll keep you guys updated with that. So stay tuned for more of all the content that's going to be coming out on social media. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, follow Boston Sports Summit on Instagram, Boston Sports Summit on Twitter. Otherwise, the Instagram handle is BOS Sports Summit. And you got Boston Sports Summit on YouTube, and always presented by the Grid Network on the Grid Network's YouTube channel right there below. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. When you follow the Grid Network, you get a whole host of great shows. Don't forget to check those out as well. All right, well, thank you so much, guys. I'm your host, Tim Barnard, and have a great rest of your week. God bless.